Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about using Dungeons and Dragons as a human improvement tool, and how this concept is increasingly becoming not alien, but quite obvious, right? So, and today we're going to do that through an unusual source, and that is Bob's Burgers, season 15, episode 4, For Whom the Doll Tows. All right. And this show specifically, so first of all, this show is doing spectacular. It's a massive hit. It really is becoming, it would be like, what if Simpsons didn't suck? That's exactly what it is, right? Now, Simpsons is like close to 35 years old, some ridiculous number. And Bob's Burgers is going into season 15, but that's a lot of seasons that people are finding the show and really enjoying the show. And it's brilliant and it's funny and it's heartfelt. And it's about Bob and Linda, these parents, and it's about these wonderful siblings. And I want to say they're the heart of the show, but the show has so many amazing characters. But Louise, she's this really outlandish, very precocious daughter. And Gene, who is her brother. And it's Gene. And then Louise. And then they have a very quiet older sister. And I can't remember her name right now. And she has these glasses on. So I'm just going to call her... it's the tall one, the tallest daughter, right? The oldest daughter. I'll call her the oldest daughter. And I'm not sure why I'm blanking on her name right now. But For Whom the Doll Tows is a story of when Louise puts on a murder mystery in a store that has dollhouses, right? And she tells this story that she specifically to ask her sister and her brother Gene to solve the murder. And they're like, we don't like this. We're not getting into this. We don't want to do this with you. And Louise has incorporated the help of this doll shop owner, right? And who does these murder scenes in the dollhouses. The whole thing is so well done. And so basically what ends up happening is Gene doesn't want to do this. The older sister doesn't want to do this. Louise is like, please do this. And so they do. And basically the entire dollhouse murder is simply essentially a acknowledgement of the brother Gene as a marginalized individual because he's wonderful and cares about people and doesn't want to harm people, right? So basically, Gene was, Louise overheard this conversation in the library at school, and these boys were mocking this one girl and talking about her in a very horrible way and really treating her as an object, and they were talking behind her back, right? Actually, no, the girl was even aware of it, right? And so they were like, hey, what do you think, Gene? And then we're waiting for Gene to say, yeah, this terrible thing. We all, despise women and treat them as objects, but then, secretly wish to be with them. And he doesn't. He's like, no, you know what? I'm not going to join in on this. And I don't think this is cool. And actually, he just completely derails it and actually put some water on this fire, right, to douse it, right? And then but then later he's excluded from this party, and Luis knows why he's excluded. He's excluded because he's not a horrible person who's going to join in with them on their evil fun, right? And then For Whom the Doll Tows, it becomes this story where she's telling Gene, you're a beautiful person. You are a loving, kind, tolerant human being. But this will have a cost, right? This will have a cost to you. And it's so brilliant and so beautiful and the perfect analogy for Dungeons and Dragons. Because Louise is so smart, she's like, well, I can't just say this to Gene. I need to show it to him in an allegory. I need to show it to him in a narrative. And it's not going to be received, right, unless there's a remove. And I keep talking about this, and it's been percolating in my head. One of the most valuable things about Dungeons and Dragons is this remove. This idea that the thing is not the thing. The thing is everything. And it's so much more. And it's so many other directions that are not expected. And so what really, really kind of warmed made my heart grow 2 sizes larger, like the Grinch, was in this show, it was saying, yes, Scott, you're right? Like, we can use narrative to say things we could never, ever say to people straight, right? That we can't, and this idea that open conversation, all problems are solved by open conversation. The most ridiculous fools say this nonsense. People do not like open conversations. They do not. Brutal punishment comes from transparency. But when you have this remove, you could say things you could never, ever say, or that would not be received or would not even be seen, right? And so if you're a dungeon master, you have to watch For Whom the Doll Tolls. And even if you've never watched an episode of Bob's Burgers, it's really important, in my humble opinion. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider subscribing and have a fetch millennium.